Viral, hello. I'm not sure. Hopefully, my audio is working here. Yeah,
Yes, your audio is working.
okay, okay, great. So, um, yeah, not sure if you can hear us, Mary, but welcome as well. Um,
Yeah, I can hear you now.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. This is great. Yeah, yeah. So, and I will just drop the link back in here once more. I think Shane must be getting a little antsy for some progress, so I will let him know. He'd asked if we had a rough ETA, but it's a pretty big project, this one. Um, that said, I think we're in probably the tougher spot here, like getting through the kind of hard legal questions here. Once we get into chapter 3, I know we start to get into more of the operational things, and I think that'll go much quicker. But that said, I think we have one. Let's see here. Yeah, I think we wrapped up here with the two. So I think we should start at slide 23 today. Um, yeah, so if that's okay, should we just get started with the three of us? I think that's plenty, and we can see who else joins here in a few minutes.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So this is the introduction to open source compliance. Oh, the last thing I'll mention is turns out I'll be using these slides for a work project in a couple weeks, so I'm quite glad we're taking a pass through these. The first few chapters in particular are going to be pretty helpful for me. So selfishly, I'm moving forward here. All right, so slide 23 is basically just an intro slide. Slide 24, we boiled down to kind of two big goals.
I had a thought on this one.
Yeah.
So the first bullet there says, know your obligations. You should have a process for identifying your components. But that's really knowing your software, or not the obligations. And then once you know the software, then you can know and satisfy the obligations.
Would it make sense, Mary, maybe to split it into three, like know your software, then understand the obligations, and then satisfy them or something?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's a very good point there. That title and the sense didn't really line up.
Okay.
Does knowing, oh, and Viral shared something. Does knowing software mean knowing the origins of the software as well? Okay, I'll make a note of that here. Okay, and so then we get into what compliance obligations may need to be satisfied. Um, I think here we're talking about here, what are the major open source um, obligations that your process may have to take into account? Yeah, some of these I help write, so I'm a little too close to them, but I don't see anything in this one offhand.
Yeah, that looks good to me.
Okay. Then yeah, Viral, I'll watch for a note from you, or if you want to jump into either way work. See, this one's already moving faster. This is great. Um, okay, so then we get into some of the main triggers of open source obligations, right? So distribution and modification. Do you think it would help to have like a slide that says, hey, we're going to go into like core concepts that you need to understand for your process? We need a better kind of intro.
Yeah, or uh, either something like that, or on each slide, for example, slide 26, open source compliance issues, distribution.
Yeah.
Then it just jumps into bullet points. But what are we saying? There's different ways software can be distributed.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Some
think
of
we need to.
these are.
I think there is generally confusion about distribution. So, like, what is a distribution? On if you are delivering hardware, it's very clear, but still people still get confused that if I'm not getting money for it, if I'm not getting money for it, is it still called a distribution?
Yeah.
Like my software is just to support my hardware, and I'm not making any money out of it.
Yeah.
Right, or I'm just doing a website. It stays internal. I'm not downloading anything to the other person's computer.
Yeah.
So therefore, distribution doesn't apply. I
Or I
think
am
so.
giving. Sorry, there was a delay. Or I'm giving my binaries. There is no way for end user to know what is in my binaries. Does
Yeah.
that count as distribution?
Yep. Okay. The one person asked me, is it if you just make it available for download, does that count? Um, and yes, it does.
Yep.
Thank you. This is actually super helpful, and I'm going to make a note up here. I think we just need to explain why first principle are being described. I think we just need a little bit of a bridge there to say, okay, this is why this section's important, because we're going to be using all these terms here pretty soon. Okay. Yeah, distribution gets a surprising amount of questions around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It has different mechanisms, right? Like so in AWS, it's like if it is in customer account, is it considered distribution?
Yeah.
If customer controls it,
Okay.
or it is not a distribution if customer doesn't control it. So like for
Yeah.
like it's not. I think it's the same question, I guess, for Google and Microsoft as well, or in Oracle as well. Like everyone who is running
Yeah.
their own service, that they might have the same concerns.
Yeah. Okay, so on modification, change it to. I think we have the same issue. I'm just going to put like explain the context, right?
Yep.
Explain the context for why this is important, and then we can go into the definition. You know, we kind of do that here with the second one. But I think we could call it out a little more clearly, like, hey, what is it? Why is it important? And maybe we could do that, you know, in a more kind of neat way. All right. Slide. Let's see. So I'll go to 28.
I think on 28. Sorry, I got confused. 29. I think training should be before other item. Like if you're
Yeah, move up to
yeah, because I think how do you identify if your people don't know
okay.
what they are looking for? Maybe we should also have like how where to find license for uh, how do I find license for open source project?
Yeah.
I think that would be like if the software developer is using it for the first time, how can we tell them where is the open source license?
Okay. So the training informs like the how to's, right?
Yep.
For the process. Okay.
Like if you have a compliance project, then go to your, if you have a compliance team, then how to reach out to your compliance team, when to reach out to your compliance team,
Yeah. Okay.
unless you want every engineer to act as a lawyer.
Yeah. So what are contact points for your compliance team? Okay. That's the one thing I was wondering is if these three slides they kind of take a left turn here. You know, we start by talking about the concepts that you need for your program, and then we go into you need to create a program, and here are the benefits of doing it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I wonder if those earlier slides kind of go better with these key concepts, right? No, no. I mean, the key concepts, these are like the engineering kind of things.
Yep.
And then the concepts above are more of the legal process kind of things. Would it make more sense to have like 29 through 28 through, sorry, I'm scrolling around, 28 through 30? Would it make sense to start with this? Like start the chapter with these and then go into the legal concepts you need to know?
So I think what is the objective? Like, are we recommending that people start with by having an open source compliance program,
Well,
like a
like
formal compliance program?
yeah, like if this training's broke up into chapters, right? And so the first couple chapters are about, you know, intellectual property law, right?
Yep.
And then next we're going to go into, okay, well, to meet these laws, you need to have a compliance program, right? And then to know how to make the judgments for your compliance program, you need to, in chapter 4, you need to know some of the key engineering terms. I think I might
Yeah.
question whether we move this to the front of the chapter.
Yes, I
Yeah, we
think
can
it,
do that.
yeah,
Okay.
makes sense because then you get program benefits, compliance benefits.
Yeah.
What was before that? Implementing. Okay, program implementing benefits, and then you go into goals. So that makes sense.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that flows really well, right? Because then, yeah, then. Uh, let's 28 through 30 begin chapter, then into okay. Otherwise, I think the content to me seemed pretty good in it, though. I think, but again, I'm often too close to these. So.
Well, apparently other people are okay with it because they're not here to complain.
Oh, so sorry, Mary, I couldn't hear that last thing you said.
Sorry, they're mowing outside.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently other people think the content here is okay because they're not here to complain about it.
There you go. That's right. All right. I'll just pause for a moment on this check for understanding, but this is really usually just kind of a rehash of what we've seen.
Well, there's a couple things there. If we're going to put 3 main goals of the compliance program, that needs to be changed. And then there's a couple of places where it says open source compliance
Okay.
program.
Was this Anne? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And
In second question as well, there is an A.
yeah. Okay.
I think it might be easier to just like do replace all if it is possible.
Mhm. Oh, I see it here. Yeah. All right. Well, next one I find, I'll try to do that. All right. So that was quick. That was good. Maybe let's hit chapter 4 then, and we get through a couple. That'll be helpful. You know, this one I know for a fact. I think we had some diagrams. If you just bear with me, let me see if they're here on the GitHub side. Mm. All right. No, well, okay. I'm not seeing him right offhand, and I will link him in. I think next time. All right. Let's see. There we go. How do you want to use? All right, so I think all we had, and I remember putting some diagrams together just about like, hey, just make it easier to understand what incorporation versus linking were. Um, And then incorporation, we try to use some synonyms so people know what kind of common terms might people mix up. I mean, we could include a number of others like copying, borrowing, etc.
Borrowing is an interesting term. I had one person. I was like, "You are not borrowing. It's just like
Yeah.
you are not giving anything back there."
Sometimes I see stealing. Yeah.
Yeah, people take offense on that one, but
I know.
borrowing they use word very
Yeah.
casually.
Yeah. All right. So linking, we have some common terms here. And these are really just to help people issue spot who aren't maybe engineers first, so they know what to look for. Okay, so modification. You
Uh,
seem pretty straightforward.
do you
Sorry.
want to put in modification? Do you want to say copying? in- I don't know where you want to put copying code block or code snippet from open source project to your code. I don't know where
Yeah.
you want to put that.
I think that to me though, I would call that incorporation if I
Yep.
were yep. Flipping blocks of code to project. Okay. All right, translation. Sometimes the word I hear here is like porting.
Yep.
And then developer tools. And yeah, there's not a lot of text here, but I'm certain there was a diagram that kind of just explained the concept.
I think in development tools, do you want to add so like do you want to add like Copilot or Code Whisperer? Like what are their implications?
Yeah. Yeah, that might be a tough one to tackle,
Yep.
given how but it's something you may have to develop policy around, and so maybe we could at least call out the need to develop policy.
So I have a few friends in India, and like it's
Yeah.
what I have heard. I think from in Silicon Valley is like it has very high penetration. Especially Copilot has very high penetration in startup.
Yep. Okay, so let's see. The distribution is we did have a whole a slide on distribution in the past chapter, right? But this is more about less legal distribution, right? And more about what are engineering distribution points, right?
So I think in engineering, even if you are not getting paid, it still counts as a distribution.
Well, is that license dependent? Or is that
Distribution is like distribution is where you more of the trigger like more obligations start. So distribution is the boundary where your obligations scale up.
Okay.
So now at distribution, now I think that's where I think it gets into like what is the definition of distribution. Like if you are giving code to a contractor, is that now distribution or is that not a distribution? If the contractor is using your hardware, then maybe that's not a distribution. If contractor is using his or her own hardware, then where does that stand? Like, if the contractor is working full time for you and not using the code that you gave him or her for any other purpose, or if the contractor is working say 20 hours for you and then rest of other 20 hours for someone else, and if uses the same code that you gave him or her, where does that land?
Some of these we'll have to call out as like especially when judgment calls get trickier.
Yep.
Like sometimes we call out issues so that people can make their decisions, but sometimes it can be good to mention it here so people can point to their own policies.
So we probably also need a introduction here. How is open source distributed? Some of the things you need to think about when determining if it's distributed are.
Yeah. Okay. So.
When determining
Yeah. If
the distribution applies.
it's made, right? Okay. True. Okay. Okay, and so we may have to adjust some of these questions based on changes. I don't think we majorly changed the other answers though.
Right.
Let's see here. All right, I think we're making good progress here. Yeah, let's tackle at least one more if we can. All right, okay, so operationally, like, what do you do, right? This is where I wondered if we got a little too specific, but or if we need to generalize some of this. We could describe this as an example of an open source process, right?
Yep. But I think these are like the basic steps, right? If you cannot do a review if you don't know what you have, what your obligations are, and
Yeah.
I don't know if the last step is.
Yeah, so the last step is probably fulfill the obligations.
Yep.
This one here.
Yeah. you know, if we're gonna decide just a very
Yeah.
basic process, because I certainly, in my company, this is what we do. So we have a group that's doing the analysis, and then we're giving it back to the project.
Yeah.
But that's not how every company is gonna operate.
Nope. No. Yeah. So I think I'm fine with this kind of in concept as long as we're viewing this as an example. Um, you know, it's a pretty broad statement to say this. It's a basic building block, but you need some point to make a judgment call, right, about this stuff. We could say something like for this example process, right? You know, the decisions are made in this open source review. Because I think some companies make more policies and have like engineers, um, you know, more, um, you know, follow things, and then this review is more of a more rare escalation point. Um,
We're not saying who has to do the review or when it's done or anything. We're just saying you have to
yeah,
do it, and that's what OpenChain says.
yeah. So yeah, so we're being generic enough here, right? Who are like identifying in your company who are the decision makers, right? Where are they gonna? You know, the one thing I would say is if I were gonna re-edit this, but I would say start with the generic um, requirements needed, right? Then go into the example process at the end. At least that's my own suggestion. Because I feel like we do just kind of dive into what assuming the process is going to be pretty like review centric, right? Whereas like in a smaller company that might not be the case, right?
Well, doesn't OpenChain say that the software is reviewed to ensure, to identify obligations and ensure no conflicts?
Hmm. But I think it's flexible in that if you can meet that obligation in a number of ways, right? If you can have like an engineering centric way of sorting those out, or you can have like a open source kind of team that helps do this in an operational way, right?
Hmm. Okay.
But I think maybe point is um, actually point well taken. To refer back to the spec language here, right? Maybe that should be the starting point with requirements, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When I'm offline, I'll go take a look and see what language I should drop in. So, okay, initiating open source review. What info should we gather? And again, we're kind of saying this in an open-ended way. This may include like, depending on your situation, right? Yeah, so ideally we want to give people content that they can take and then they can easily adapt to insert their own process decisions. And so I think being over inclusive here is good.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think the number 2 in this list. Uh, I don't know if you want to put it like at number 2. Maybe you want to push it down because like most of the time people don't like. It depends on the scope of the project. Because if what you are getting is only a dependency, then do you really care? Like if it is a transitive dependency, do you really care about other items? If it is a project around which you are building your service, then maybe you care about community health and other items at that stage.
Well, actually, that community health thing, at this point, you've already decided to use the open source, and the community health is something you should be looking at before you decide to use it.
Yeah.
And so at this point, it doesn't matter.
Or, well, it matters for like the long term health of your situation. Like what if the project that you are picking up is dead, and like then you are in kind becoming owner of that project. So if you are not willing to become owner of that particular project, then maybe you should go and choose a different project.
Yeah,
I
but
guess,
we're past choice at this point.
well, I
You've
think,
already.
Mary, we might, isn't the review though, like this is still a yes or no as a possibility, right? When we're collecting this info.
Um, okay, so I guess that's a good question because that wasn't clear to me.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Because there's two perspectives you can do the review from, right? You can do review of stuff that you want to take in to make the decision if you want to use that or not, and then there's a review of your final or final-ish software to determine if you're fulfilling all the obligations and there's no conflicts. So there are two really distinct and different types of reviews.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to, okay, I think that's a important point we're gonna have to address here. Actually, probably in slide 42, I would think. Like, what's the purpose of the review, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but that first, if you look at slide 41, the opening of the chapter, it really says
Yeah.
an open source review in which the open source usage is analyzed, which to me sounds like it's what you've decided to use already. Now you're looking at it. Or wait, no. The first one would be the first thing would be what you're deciding to use, and the second one is what you've already decided.
Okay.
Or we yeah, we just
I
have to make a big distinction. I mean, we call it an inbound review for the early decision making, and then a license compliance review at the end.
okay. Okay, because that's important. People might split up these reviews, right?
But I think
Companies.
it depends, right? Like at which stage. So, like, do you want to say start the process as early as possible? Because let's say in the end you realize that you are using a package you are using a package with where you are not very comfortable with the license of a package, and if you find out if your open source review is at the very last stages of your product launch, then you are putting the launch at risk. Whereas if you have done this homework like way early in the process, then it's easier to do compliance. Then
Yeah.
open source process is not a blockage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
But if, Earl, do you agree that, excuse me, if you don't do a review of the entire software deliverable at the end, you could miss things if you're just looking at the pieces as you go along the way?
Yeah, you have to, it's a holistic, it's a process that follows along your software development. So
Yeah,
you have to see everything in separately, as well as you have to see the whole picture at the end. So like this is similar to, like, I used to work as a patent agent, so like it's a similar to what you are doing as you are looking at pieces and then what's the whole picture as well. So like
yeah,
in its own, like each piece may not mount to a lot, but if you see the whole picture, maybe you have something out there.
right.
So you have to
Yeah,
do both, and
yeah,
but like if you are not careful on the earlier stages, then at the very end you may realize that, oh, something is not correct, or you might miss out in the very beginning if one of your engineer is using, say, AGPL project, and you may not realize till very end. Now you have to rearrange, or like you have to go back to drawing board. At this stage, at the very end, it might be more costly, more time
yeah,
consuming to fix it, whereas in the very beginning, if you had told the engineering team, hey, don't use like a particular
exactly.
license. So
Yeah, we run into that situation, so,
Yeah.
yep,
I
I think
just
it's a story for everyone.
yeah.
yeah,
I wonder, just looking through the content here, it almost seems like we do need a little bit of reorganization, meaning like so we need to kind of start out and saying, hey, what are the we need something about review points, right?
Yep.
We need something about let me start some notes here.
Yeah, like when you are starting your review,
Yeah.
well, it's also the perspective. Are you doing it from a perspective of, should I use this package?
Yeah.
Or are you doing it from a perspective of looking at the whole software holistically?
The-
There
So
are two very different use
it's
cases,
like,
I
is your
think.
review after the fact or is your review proactive? So like, are you just reacting to what your software developers have selected and trying to comply, or are you proactively advising your developers on what they should select that will make compliance easier?
okay. Um, team. Okay, so I'm just writing what else we saw. For contact points. But we had tooling. We had a section on tooling later. Um, oh, info to gather. And then oversight. Okay. And I'm not putting in these any particular order yet, but information gathered. And then 7. Is this like was that a good list of the topics I think I heard? Um, let's see here.
Yeah, but some of these might be a little bit different based on number one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just trying to think about like for number one, yeah, you have to decide what you're gonna do. You're gonna decide like what purpose you're gonna do at what review point, right? Like, are you gonna early on? Are you gonna make a? Are you just gonna do both of these early on? Are you gonna decide to use things early, and then at the release point you'll decide what the obligations are, or right? Like people can make their decisions about that, right? But then, yeah, like what flows from that is probably the rest of these things, right? Like what, um, if like Mary, if we start with these two, do you think that sets up the understanding for the rest of them? Well, if I put those at the front,
Hopefully, yeah.
okay. Let's see here. Did I miss anything from your point, like in the notes here?
No, that is correct. I think that is all.
Okay. Like Mary, did I? Am I feel like I'm missing something though. That you were saying there's an aspect of these that's affected by number one. I'm just not sure I captured that quite.
Yeah, well, the information you're gathering is, if you do stuff at a release point,
Yeah.
like what if you do only at the release point?
Okay.
The information might be a little bit different than if you're doing kind of an early evaluation, or if you're doing both. If you're doing both the early evaluation and making that early decision, but then also then checking at the end, you're going to have different information that you want to collect and have available for each one of those points, right?
Okay. Okay. Did that? Am I capturing that idea there now then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if this could be a way, then we reorganize the chapter. We'll go into like making those decisions, right? Like first you organize your process around what you're going to do when, right? And then based on that, then we'll say, okay, so for each of those decisions, then you have to decide, these things.
Right.
Okay. Okay. I like that. That makes a lot more sense. So thank you for that.
So does that take care of chapter 5?
I think it does. I think some of the more granular stuff will have to kind of get looked at once we get into that. And let me just see how many. Okay, so we have 3 more chapters after that. Maybe we should call it for a day for this one since we got through 3, and then I think if we get through, yeah. So the next one is like, oh yeah, the next one's we go into like end-to-end example process, and before we get to this one, I'm really going to try to find the diagrams because I think that'll be more helpful. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and here's where I think a lot of people they'll kind of cut off, and if this one doesn't make sense, this end-to-end one was more for big companies, so sometimes this one doesn't get used as much. Yeah, so we'll capture that the next round. So, developer guidelines, yeah, that was a short one. All right, well, hey, thank you both. I think we got some really good content in here, and I think this is gonna very much help. So.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to look at it in between time and add some comments into chapter 6 and forward.
Okay. Well, appreciate that. And then, yeah, in the meantime, I'll get an email out when I find the actual slides as well, the PowerPoint ones with the diagrams in it. So, and I think Shane was trying to get that into some more neutral format, so I'll see what he says. So. All right. Well, thank you. Hope everyone has a great day. So.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day. Talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.